From the heart, a real honest share, very powerful share. So I'll hand it over to you, Mariska.
Thanks, Nat. Hi, Mariska, I'm alcoholic. Yeah, sure, I'm like very nervous. I don't think this ever gets easier doing this, especially this meeting. I don't know why, but I don't like sharing at this meeting. Yeah, and I suppose if I gotta like think like a lot of fear, and when I think about it, my fear is around I want to sit here and I want to be profound and I want to be perfect, and that's kind of not my reality and not my truth. Especially like in my recovery, and sometimes I think like I need to be further along, or like I need to be behaving better, or like whatever, and and I don't always get it right. And that's kind of where my fear comes from, is that stuff, what I always try and remind myself about is I just need to share my truth. That's my message, and it's about God and the newcomer. And I try and put that out there so that I don't forget that, because my my head can make it all about me and make me forget about that stuff. I think me sitting here 3 years, I need to say sober now. Sorry, it's 3 years sober. If you had to ask me a couple of years ago if that seemed possible, I wouldn't say yes, For me, even this week has been like mad for me, and it's all fear and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think like it sinks in for me where I'm like last night I felt like a failure. I was like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Because I haven't, I've struggled this week or whatever, but I'm here, you know what I'm saying? And that's a miracle in itself. Sorry. And I don't always see that. I'm going to start. When I'm nervous, I'm very like up and down and like whatever, but that will pass. That will go away just now. And I'm just happy my friend's sitting next to me. Oh, she almost forgot. But that's Nat, though. She's very blonde.
Thanks,
Any case, I'm gonna I want to just try and keep it very simple, because I like complicating things and I like making things like very messy in my head. So me being, alcoholic, I never really understood what that meant, and through coming into the program and working my steps and kind of becoming aware of who I am and my behavior, today I understand what that means. The youngest, where I know where my disease started for me was kind of when I was very little, very young, and always not feeling okay with me, And I remember, especially primary school, I had like a little best friend that like she always looked happy and she always looked like she's got things together or whatever, and I never felt like that, I always felt like there's something missing, or I always felt like if I'm like her, or I act like her, or I do things like her, say things like her, or whatever, and I tried to copy her, when I was in primary school, I would feel on the inside like how she looks on the outside. So that's kind of, if I look at it where I already had this thing that was not okay with me. And then I'm going to just pass, I'd come from Joburg, so I lived in Joburg. I'm not going to go into all of that stuff. But primary school, I was okay, and I kind of just went, I didn't really, I think, consciously know, something's wrong with me, Any case, and when I got to high school, that's kind of where things started changing for me. And it first started with I remember I developed an eating disorder in standard 6, that is grade 8, I think. And that was before I picked up any substance. I remember I did like a whole lot of sports and stuff when I was in primary school. And when I got to high school, I wasn't the best anymore. So I kind of like withdrew and I was like, well, I'm not trying anything anymore. And I stopped with everything. And obviously with that, my disease found its way into something else, and that was food. And the behavior around it, if I look back, like was exactly the same as using. Like I'd steal sweets out of my mom's cupboard and she'd like fight with me about it and I'd lie about it and like that, like to that point of like that promising like I won't take the next chocolate, tomorrow I won't do this, tomorrow I won't do that, and I could never get it right, and kind of like that links up for me like with my using, it was exactly the same behavior and exactly the same like powerlessness around I can't stop, like even no matter how much I try on my own willpower, I couldn't stop. So that was, and that was with chocolates, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of, and from there on, like around my high school, like my behavior just started going more and more backwards. I remember I was, like very rebellious, and I started bunking school, and I was like lying to my parents, and with my behavior, I created a lot of chaos with, especially with my mom. Like my mom was one of my biggest resentments throughout my life because. Because she always got in my way, I guess, of me doing what I want to do, because she's the mom, and I understand that today. She was continuously fighting for me to get my life in order and to live, and I was continuously fighting for me to die, and to mess up my life. And but I thought I knew it all, I really thought like my way is how this should be going, and because of that, I developed a lot of resentment around my mom, and I didn't like my mom a lot, so with that, like kind of that's just like around my behavior. In high school, I had like braces, I was a brace face, and I wasn't too good with the men, and I was very like shy, and I was a bit like chubbier because I was a binger, and all that kind of stuff, and whether it was consciously or not consciously, when I started drinking, that was my first substance. I started drinking, and like I said, I don't think it was like a conscious thing where I realized like this makes me feel okay. But along the line, in hindsight, I can see how when I would go out or whatever, and I wanted to drink as much as I could to get that confidence and to make me feel okay, so that I can be better with the men, and I can be like funnier, and and I don't feel like that little brace-faced kid, also like never ever in my life thought my journey would be like it was, picking up that first substance. Obviously that was not my plan for my life. From there on, like my progression was extremely quick. I was not a functioning alcoholic. From there, I started doing the next substance and the next substance and the next substance. I started working when I left matric, and at that time I was 19 years old, and I very quickly my life became unmanageable. I couldn't get up for work. I wasn't productive at work. Like my family it was chaos with my family all the time at home. Like all that stuff started becoming very real for me. At the age of 19, I was called into work, and they asked me what was the problem. And for the first time, I exposed that I was using a substance or whatever. I went into treatment, and my cycle started there. And that was kind of for the next 10 years, my journey to step one, and that's kind of how it went for me. And I remember when I like that's also, I always share about this because it's really important for me to remember this because of knowing that I can't do this on my own, and like I'm screwed on my own. Where I was in that treatment center, and I was there for 2 weeks, and I thought, okay, I'm going to walk out here and I'm going to be cured, I thought, like, drugs is my problem. As long as I stop that, I can be normal, and I had no idea that I have a disease. I had no idea that what this is about, and I had no idea that I wouldn't be able to stop. And I still remember I had like a little diary thing, and I wrote in there, and like making those promises, making those promises to myself, to God, like whatever, like I'll never touch drugs again. And I remember like I was quite mad, like I'd go to my using friends and be like, would you guys mind if I stop using, It's like asking their permission or whatever, I don't know. Before I knew it, and kind of with that, like a lot of reservations around that stuff also for a very long time, it's like the people, places and things, I wouldn't want to stop doing the same things. Like I thought I was young, and why do I want to give up drinking? Why do I want to give up going out to places and hanging with my same friends and whatever? So that was kind of the main thing there for me. Before I knew it, I was back doing the same thing, I was using again. And from there on, like it's been like mad. Like I went into treatment, came out, did the same thing, used, go into treatment. Like that was my life, for the next 10 years. And with that, my progression became worse and worse and worse, where I would start doing things that I said I'd never do. And like kind of those going any lengths for my using, and kind of like the madness around waking up in the morning and the first thing I have to do is use, just to function for the day. That's kind of where that's where it ended up for me. I remember I wouldn't even shower or like get dressed or whatever before work. All I had to do is in my pajamas, get in the car, like race down to get my drug of choice and get back to work, always late or like whatever, like that stuff didn't matter to me, whether I'm late or like no sense of that stuff. As long as I got my fix to function throughout the day, that's what my life became about. And this is where it also kind of goes blurry for me because that's it. Like, that's it. Like that's what I did, day in, day out. Like I don't want to go into all of that stuff, like kind of, and I'm going to share a little bit with it because for identification of like stealing and like selling my clothes out of my car boot and like living in my car and like all that kind of mad stuff, breaking into my own house, and that was like my progression. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse, and I just started like doing madder and madder and madder things for my drugs and my using. Then I suppose like along the way, like the wanting to stop came along the way, the wanting to stop came, and the like desperation around like what is wrong with me, like why can't I stop, why can't I put this, or not like I go into rehab and I stop, and the moment I leave I get back into that, and then like the promises came to myself, to my family, every time my family like busted me or whatever, promising my mom over and over and over again, like this time is the last time, I won't do it again, and most of the time really meaning it, and before I knew it, I'd be using again, and I remember on this journey I got to a place where I stood in front of my mom's house the one day, and on my way to rehab again, and like that hopelessness feeling of like, what is the point? And I remember like the same hopelessness feeling in my mom's face, because like they've walked this journey with me. Like what my family's lives became about was trying to fix Mariska, trying to get me better, sending me to rehab, sending me on courses, sending me to university, where none of that stuff like made me better, and I wouldn't even finish any of that stuff. I wasn't even in university for 6 months, and I dropped out. I didn't finish any course they sent on me. Like kind of mad. So that's kind of what my family's journey around me as well was, about that stuff, trying to get Mariska better. And I remember that day standing in front of my mom's house, and I really thought like, I'm going to die like this, because I've tried rehab, I've tried medication, I've tried church, I've tried all these different things, and nothing has worked. And that's kind of where my journey started. Before that, I don't know why, but I suppose that's my journey. I was never introduced to AA or the fellowship or the steps, or I don't know why. I was maybe in the cave all the time, I don't know. But that's when I remember like that hopelessness feeling when I was there. It was kind of the door started opening for me, and I went into my first treatment center that was like they did meetings there, and they kind of started on step 1 or whatever. But I was still not ready, even though the solution was in front of me. Like I didn't know what it was about. If I look back, I thought like, if I go sit in the meetings, like something will happen here, And I remember, but also, I suppose just me, like not wanting to change, not wanting to give up that life, And I still thought it was about the fun and the games and the men and the whatever, all that kind of stuff. But like I was exposed to the solution for the first time, that's kind of what's important for me there. And after that, I still came out, and again, I relapsed, and I worked for one job miraculously for 6 years, where I was enabled quite a lot, and I should have been fired a long time ago. And eventually, they had enough of me, and they said to me I had to go, and that was like when I did the geographical, where I thought, okay, Joburg is the problem. I need to go to Cape Town. Like there I can restart my life and things will be a lot better, And that was not the case. I still had a reservation about drinking, and I thought like I can just drink, and that had to get smashed out of me, And throughout this time, with my behavior, like I was incapable of taking responsibility, like completely incapable. I blamed everyone around me. It was always everyone else's fault. I was a big victim. I don't know, I couldn't take responsibility for anything. Like the people I worked for was always like sorting out places where I had to live. If it wasn't for them, I'd probably end up on the street like a long time ago. It was like kind of like I was just like using, and everyone else was patching everything up around me, like that's how it was. Like never paid my rent. I couldn't even buy my own food, if I did eat. The people I worked for at that time would like bring packets of food to my house just to make sure I eat, not that I've even eaten it, very entitled, no sense of gratitude, like all that stuff, like that was me, and today I understand that is the main problem of my disease, my selfish self-centeredness, and I'm not saying I'm not selfish anymore. I gotta, because I am, but I know, that is the main thing that I gotta work on, But in any case, I went to Cape Town. Before that, I went to a treatment center in Scarborough. Obvious, I know. Any case, I won't make it that obvious, guys. It was in Scarborough. But any case, yeah, so I went, and before I went to Cape Town, and again, and this is also important for me because I had to go through these experiences. It's like process of elimination for me, where I had to go in and do it the wrong way, completely the wrong way, to learn that doesn't work, and to kind of let go of that stuff. I went in there. I was there for 4 months. I never got concerned. I was flying under the radar. I was dishonest. My step 4 and 5, I was like, I'm not telling these people this, my secrets. It's no ways, I'll be okay, And I really thought I'll be okay. And I left there, and it was suggested I must move to Scarborough, and I was like, nope, I'm going back to Joburg. Bye. And I went back to Joburg, and it was exactly the same thing, And it, like I said, it just got worse every time, because this time I lost my job, and I had nowhere to go in Joburg. My options were kind of finished there, And then I tried options in Cape Town. And I got there, and I moved in with a friend, and the same thing, kind of created chaos in her life with her and her husband. And at this point, I was 26 years old, and I was climbing through windows like a teenager in someone else's house, sneaking out, mad stuff like that, just to go and drink. And eventually she kicked me out of her house. I lost jobs there. Something that I always share about that I'm not proud of, and it's one of those things that I said I'll never do. I had an affair when I was in Cape Town, and I was really, delusional about this stuff, and that's the progression, where I really start losing all my values and my morals of the person who I am, and I kind of went through that stuff, and and I just always think it's mad. Any case, and eventually things came crashing down there. In this time, also just the insanity around my disease. I always share about this because of how I know my willpower and my need or want to stop using has I've got no. I can't do that stuff on my own. I ended up I've madness around this stuff, where I think if I was normal and sane in any way, when these things would happen to a normal person, they would stop, right? Not for me. I couldn't stop. I overdosed, and I was resuscitated by the boyfriend I was dating at the time. His family was freaking out, and I was like, what's wrong with these people? And I stood up there, and we went and we used just like that, you know what I'm saying? And that's the insanity around that. And the other thing is, when I was in Cape Town, I ended up in hospital with kidney failure. And I had 10% of my kidneys working, and the doctor said to me, you can't use or drink, Mariska, you'll die. And I remember Shame Cassidy still phoned me in that time, randomly, and that's also kind of, what I missed out there is when I came into treatment in Scarborough, it was also the first time where I found some hope. I wasn't ready to take hold of that yet, but I saw something there, and I knew these people, there's something happening there, And in my time of going back, the people that was in treatment with me somehow always stayed in touch with me, and so Cassidy was one of those people that played a big role on my journey of getting to here. Because before that, I had the papers and everything, and I was on my way to Noordpoort. Cassidy phoned me, and she was like, how are you, Mariska? And I'm in hospital, kidney failure. No, I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? And that's the insanity. I'm like, no, I'm in hospital. I got a bit of kidney failure, but I'm good. You know? So, and she's like, well, Mariska, like, why don't you come back into treatment? And I was like, no, I'm good. Like, you don't understand. You know what I'm saying? And if that phone call didn't happen, I don't think I would have even thought of coming back to Scarborough, you know. And because of that phone call, when the time came when everything came crashing down again, my mom was like, you're going into Nopwood. And I was like, please don't. Like, just phone Cassidy, you know. And I came back. I think for the first time, like, I had a bit of more pain, and for the first time I started really feeling like sick of me and the way I was and the way I behaved. But yeah, I don't know, I was still not ready, you know, but it was like that process. I was in treatment for a year this time. I missed like a day. I ran away and then I came back, so I counted as a year. I don't know if I skipped that, but yeah. And with this, for me, like, the big lesson for me in all of this is it didn't matter to me whether I was there for 4 months or a year, or if I've done the steps like 20 million times or like that stuff. I love that there's a share, and I always share about it because it's just how my journey has been. And it's just how my experience has been, where I think it's Nicky Bush, I'm not sure, but where he says, I can't get recovery through osmosis, you know. And that's what I kind of thought along the way, like, I'll just sit in a meeting and I'll get better, you know. And I had to go through those experiences and get to a place of pain and desperate to get better, before I got willingness, you know, and I got the gift of willingness, where I was like, I don't want to live that life anymore. And my experience about the different times in treatment, different lens, different whatever, is if I wasn't willing to change and I wasn't willing to do the work, nothing changed, and I just used again, you know. That's kind of what it was for me. So I left again and I used again, and my last time going out again, like, I really thought like I'm in recovery or whatever, but if I look back again, like, no change, no doing what I need to do, none of that stuff, you know. And the last time I relapsed, I thought like fuck it, you know. I'm sorry for the French, but I was at that point where I was like, well, I've done treatment, I've done the steps, I've done, like, really at a place where I thought like hopeless, like I'm not going to get better, you know. And when I'm very stubborn, you know what I'm saying, like, I like being stubborn, but I tried to do it in the rooms, and I thought, like, I can do this, you know, I can stop using. And my other thing is, like, if it wasn't for this fellowship and for the people around me, I probably wouldn't be sitting here. And today, what was given to me, I really try and give back to other people, because I know what that means to me, my life, of people keeping the doors open, to wait for me to be ready, because I wasn't ready, you know. And I, like, the person who got me back into treatment is sponsoring me now. And I'm very grateful for this lady in my life. She knows me better than my mom knows me. Like, I love her dearly, and she, you know, and it's quite amazing how that stuff also worked, because she came into treatment and I was quite a big part in her journey, helping her when she was going through a lot of stuff. And then I left and I used, and it was like the flip side, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like that one alcoholic helping another, and that's like, yeah, which has been like quite very cool for me to see. Any case, and so I try to do it in the rooms, and every time I'll just get a message of going, Mariska, how are you? You know, like every like once in a while, and I'll be like, I'm okay, whatever, and she'll be like, come for coffee, you know, yeah, and I kind of, and she did this a couple of times, and I wasn't willing to go back into treatment because I really thought like there's no solution for me. You know what I'm saying? I really, really thought that, I eventually did. I eventually knew, like I don't have other options anymore. I don't have another choice, and I've tried to do this, and kind of knowing I can't do this, and I went into treatment, and it was the first time I went into treatment. I had no backup plan. I didn't know if I'm going to have a job or not going to have a job. I just kind of went, you know, and I was like, you know, like kind of that. I had no more options. And I had to, when I was in treatment, I had to start doing the work again. Throughout this, like my first year of recovery, what I did the steps. I did what I was told by my sponsor. I started doing my inventories at night. I kind of just threw myself into this, you know. And my hope came from, like at that time, I didn't have like faith or like whatever, you know what I'm saying. But I just had like hope, like maybe, you know what I'm saying. And my hope mainly came from, I think, from my sponsor, you know what I'm saying, because I've seen her when she came into treatment, and I've seen her like going through all this stuff, and I kind of just, and I just thought like maybe, you know what I'm saying, and I kind of just threw myself into this, and like I said, I got the gift of willingness where I was like, I don't want to go back to that life, you know, and I did what I was told. I left treatment. I was there on suggestion, I was there for 24 days. I had no one else to pay for my treatment, and I was institutionalized, and I was told by Annie, who was my sponsor at that time, I need to go, you know, my problem is living life on life's terms. My problem is not treatment, you know. And I suppose that was like my first step out of where I was really, really scared, and I had to kind of just make that jump, you know, of doing what I was told. And I left, and from there on, like things just started happening, you know. I went, for the first time, I started paying my own rent. Okay, well, before that, I was au pairing. That's another thing. Like I was au pairing for two teenagers, and I relapsed. I was like the only adult in their house, and I relapsed in their house. And it wasn't like a very cool thing for me, because I was looking after these two girls, and I was very dodgy, and I was taking them to dodgy places, and I was buying them alcohol, and if I think about it, I'm like, no wonder you use Mariska, you know. And I relapsed, and I was driving these two girls around while I was using, and like it was just mad. And when I left treatment, I had to go back there to make amends, and it was fucking hard, because my amends to them was to be assertive and to say no, and they didn't like that. And by the end, when I left there and I had to get out of there because it wasn't a good environment, and these two girls also had because their dad wasn't around and whatever, and it was the hardest thing to change my behavior from taking them to clubs and buying them alcohol to going, sorry, no, I can't do that. But that was my amends, you know, doing it the right way. Sometimes amends is not always like the happy things, you know. By the time I left there, they hated my guts, and they blocked me on Facebook up until today. They don't speak to me, and it wasn't easy. And I also know, Shame and these two girls even came with their dad to visit me in treatment. So obviously I know my part in all of that, you know. So that's kind of what I did with that. And along the way, obviously, like just going back to that, with doing my steps in treatment, like it was also the first time with my step 4 and 5 where I was rigorous honest. And up until today, I'm rigorous honest with my sponsor about every single thing. Like, I don't know, sometimes I think maybe I share too much with her. But but I don't want to take that chance. I rather, like, I won't die, if I'm honest. But I do, like, she knows every single thing about me, and the relief that comes from that. And also throughout my step 4 and 5 and my life story feedback, the biggest thing that's come up for me is me taking responsibility for my behavior. That's been like the story of my life, and having to take responsibility for those things. And also, like, I suppose because of my secrets and stuff, I always thought like I'm the only one that feels like this, and I'm the only one that kind of goes through these things. And the moment I started sharing these things, it was okay. I had people that, and I've